It was an ordinary winter day a few days ago. The first snow of the year had fallen. In northern Norway, winter came early. The sun also set early. The snow lit up the dark winter and the northern lights I had just witnessed during a work trip to the ice hotel in Sweden. I was still in Sweden. I was going back to Tromsø in Norway together with my work colleagues. But I stayed an extra night. I needed it. The work had been very demanding and stressful, with new clients who demanded a lot, so that I thought resting an extra day would be optimal. I could blame it on a slight cold since tomorrow was Friday, so it meant weekend and time off. That way I got a long weekend. My work colleagues were in Norway, and the next day I checked out of the ice hotel, which is a hotel made of ice. It was now Saturday, and I felt in a good mood. But I had quite a long drive home. That's why I got in the car early in the morning, to make it home before it got dark. After about an hour, I realized that I had forgotten to charge my mobile during the night at the hotel. I usually always charge my mobile during the night, so I was pissed at myself that I forgot to do it last night. I had promised to call my wife. I would wholesale food in Sweden before I returned home, because food prices were significantly cheaper there than at home in Norway. She would prepare a food list, and we used to talk several times a day when I was away. She would think it was strange if I, who am so meticulous about always having a fully charged mobile phone, would suddenly have my mobile phone switched off. I drove with our commuter car. It was cheaper to drive. It was a Renault Clio, and typically I didn't have a mobile charger in this car. But there was nothing that worried me. I decided to go into a small town to buy food anyway. I knew I would forget to buy the essential groceries or buy the wrong groceries. I always used to do that. That's why my wife always had to plan what we would buy for home. After shopping for a lot of food, I felt satisfied that I would come home. We saved a lot of money, so I was happy with my shopping. I loaded the food into the small car. There was hardly any room because the car was so small. Satisfied with everything, I now longed to go home to my wife and children. But it had taken considerably longer than expected in the store. So now I had to drive without stopping to get home before dark. There were plenty of road signs, but stupid enough. Then I listened to music and sang out loud to myself. I got distracted and missed a couple of road signs. It was a problem. I had taken a detour to go shopping. I had gone off the main road onto a minor road. It was not a motorway, but a completely ordinary country road. I managed to get lost. Now I was in the middle of the wilderness. Out here, there were no people or villages, just forest, wildlife, and snow. It felt a little uncomfortable, but I knew that I just had to follow the road signs and I would get back on the right road. Now it was time to focus, but instead of seeing a road sign again, I ended up on dirt roads. There were no road signs here, only names of small local villages. I thought about turning around, but I continued forward anyway. I need to get on a regular road soon, I thought to myself. The gas started to run out. The plan was to fill up next to the main road at a gas station. I should have refueled when I was in town shopping, but stupidly, I didn't. I had been incredibly stupid and made mistakes I didn't usually make. And after driving for several hours, I was still on a small dirt road. I had passed lots of different intersections. It was left, right, or straight ahead as options. With signs in small local villages, which I didn't know. I just followed what I thought was right. I had guessed all along. It felt like I was stuck in a maze of dirt roads. I saw no people to ask, no houses. It was completely deserted. A place where no people lived. Northern Sweden has a very large land area, and that made it very difficult for me. I looked up at the sky. I saw that it was getting dark. The sun already set at 3 o'clock in the afternoon at this time of year. It was only now I started to get scared. Not because of the darkness, but because the petrol was now on reserve and it was about minus 15 degrees outside. By nightfall, the temperature could drop well below minus 30 this far north. I said out loud to myself, I am the dumbest idiot on earth. I wanted to punch myself for being so stupid. Finally, the gravel road stopped, and now there were only traces of heavy forest machines, with large piles of wood next to the road. Wonderful, this is perfect. I thought as I got out of the car to look for someone who might be working around here. I followed the tracks and found two large forest machines next to a small building. I went over and knocked and called for someone, but they had left for the day. There was no one left. Now I had to break in and get into the building so as not to die of cold. Or take a chance and go back to choose another gravel exit, which might take me to a village or onto a major road with regular road signs. I decided to continue, to chance to go back and then take the exit to the left this time, instead of the right exit as I did recently. I followed the tracks back to the car. I saw that bears had torn up several fir trees next to me. I was now aware that bears and wolves were around me. It scared me because if a bear would have attacked me here, so it could take a long time before someone would find me. I sat in the car, started to reverse to be able to turn the car. But something was wrong, so I decided to get out of the car. To my great shock, I saw that one rear tire had a puncture. I started to scream out my anger. Damn shit, damn. I shouted out loud to myself as I stared at the wilderness that consisted only of spruce forests. I opened the trunk and took out my spare tire. Luckily, I had it, and I lifted the car, and only when I was about to remove the punctured tire, I saw a sight that scared me. It was a knife. A small knife stuck in the tire. I stood there scratching my chin. Damn knife. It means that a human did this. Then who the hell? I thought. There are no houses or a village here. Why would another human being in the middle of the wilderness then knowingly put a knife in my deck? The thought made me very nervous and scared. I shouted, "Hello!" several times and looked around me. I wished I now had eyes on the back of my neck. I decided to fast as hell, change the tire, and drive out of here. I now worked quickly. I managed to change the tire without much trouble, and I drove away with a huge sense of relief. I even laughed nervously to myself. I reached the exit and took the right turn. Now I just wanted to get out on a big road again, or at least to a village or town. But this dirt road was even smaller. I had to fight to stay on the road so as not to go into a ditch. It was a good thing I had good winter tires, otherwise it would never have worked. Now it was quite dark outside. I turned on the high beam to see better, mostly to see animals and signs. And I felt joy when I saw a sign that referred to a place that I knew. It was 47 kilometers to get there. I was a little unsure if the gas would be enough, but at least I now knew which direction I needed to go. That alone was a huge relief. I didn't feel as lost, and a couple of 100 meters in front of me, there was also a car on the side of the dirt road. Perfect. Now I can ask him if the road leads to the resort, to double check, and if he might have a spare can of petrol, which I might be able to buy from him. I thought while I stopped my car, next to his car. I cranked down the car window on the passenger side. He stared at me, but he didn't roll down his window even though I pointed at his car window. It was strange. His look was odd. Next to him sat a guard dog, which, together with him, did not react at all. He totally ignored me, even though he was looking at me. I got a bad feeling and decided to wind up the car window and keep driving. He had an older pickup with extra lighting. I looked in the rearview mirror. He started driving after me. I thought it was strange. All of a sudden, he turned on his high beams with the auxiliary lighting. The whole forest and the road in front of me dissolved. I was blinded, and the light was very bright. Suddenly, I almost lost my balance and went into the ditch. He ran into me from behind. I had time to think. "He wants to run me into the ditch, fucking madman!" I signaled with my brake lights and honked to alert the madman. But instead of slowing down, he accelerated and hit me again. I responded by stepping on the gas and increasing my speed significantly to try to outrun him. But my car was not built for this road condition and fast speeds, so that I didn't manage to run away from him. He had no problem hanging on. I started to panic. What the hell does he want me to do? He drove like a madman and finally hit me from behind with full force. I couldn't do anything, but my car went into the ditch. I overturned the car and crashed into a tree. I smelled burnt. My whole body ached and felt strange. I was bleeding from my face and had several open wounds on my upper body. I remember the adrenaline made me crawl out of the car. I managed to stand up, despite it did hurt a lot. My legs seemed fine. I walked back up to the dirt road and looked at his car. He had the engine running and the lights on. To my horrified look, I saw the man get out of the car. He's holding a fucking axe, but quick as hell I ran away. I ran along the dirt road. I looked back and saw him walking back to his car. I don't remember what I was thinking. I was just focused on surviving. Heard how he revved his car and the sound of his car going towards me. I looked back again and saw him driving at full speed, straight towards me. I ran down to the ditch and behind a tree. He stopped his car again and stepped out of the car with the axe in his hand again. But now he started running after me. I ran straight into the forest. I didn't look back, but just kept running like never before. It was deep snow, and the further into the forest I got. It was getting darker. The sun had set, and soon it would be total darkness. I heard him panting and breathing loudly. He was not far from me. He was very close. Finally, I came to a kind of cliff. I tripped and fell. I bounced and rolled down the big hill. When I stopped rolling, I screamed. I felt paralyzed. My body ached, and the pain was very strong, despite the adrenaline. I looked up and saw the man standing up there on the rock with the axe in his hand. He carefully started to get down. I tried to stand up, but it stopped. Something was definitely broken. I crawled and finally stopped. I lay on my back with my eyes on the treetops. To my surprise, I heard a car honking like hell. I looked up and saw the man turn and hide the axe inside his winter jacket. It turned out that another vehicle was on its way to the resort, but could not continue his drive because the man's car was standing and blocking the entire dirt road. That's why the other driver honked. He saw how the crazy man quickly got into his car nonchalantly and drove away quickly. Then he saw my car, that an accident had happened. I had cried out loud and in sheer desperation. He heard me, and then I was taken by an ambulance helicopter to the nearest hospital after he called an ambulance. Unfortunately, he did not see the license plate of the perpetrator. He is still at large. I'm sure he was a murderer. I would have been murdered if the other driver hadn't passed me. I think it was meant to be, fate making sure it was my salvation. So those of you reading this, never forget to charge your mobile. Plan your trip carefully and notify relatives.